We've seen more terrible scenes where people kill their demonstrators. But they call themselves Democrats, and we're called Persians. If that's democracy, I repeat, we don't want this democracy.
Ibrahim Traore, the president of Burkina Faso, is right. People can't seriously be giving a pass to dictators just because they are not wearing uniforms. But they do worse than military men, people who actually came to power through a revolution. It doesn't make any sense. It is happening in Kenya, it is happening in Nigeria. In Kenya, during the massive protests there, they've continued to disappear many people up to today. In Nigeria, it happened during the August End Bad Governance protest. They killed a lot of people. They even went as low as arresting young people, teenagers that are not up to 15 years. They arrested them, detained them for more than 3 months, and still had the audacity to charge them for treason. You can imagine how low they can go just to protect themselves, just to prevent people from criticizing them. They no longer tolerate any sort of dissent. Free speech, that is a hallmark of any democracy, no longer exists. People who say anything, especially on social media or any media for that matter, are hounded, arrested, and put to trial. Where is the free speech? Even if someone is truly defamed, why not allow that person to approach a civil court to lay claims? They've turned free speech to a criminal matter, arresting people and charging them in different jurisdictions. It doesn't matter where the so-called defamation happened. It might happen in the Deep South, in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, anywhere in the South, but they will arrest that person, fly the person to Abuja, and charge him to court. In some cases, they even arrest relatives of the person and hold the person till the person they want is produced. That's how low they have sunk. They never had any level in the first place, not to talk of sinking. So the hypocrisy stinks to high heavens. There are rules and regulations in a democracy. When the main operators, the people in power, don't ever abide by these rules, it makes a mess of the whole system. They only hold the opposition to account. It is the only opposition that are forced to go by the rules of a democracy. People in power are always above the law. They don't give a damn. All they care about is protecting their interest, and that their interest is maintaining power, and that their interest of being in power overrides the national interest. In a democracy, especially the one Nigeria operates, there are 3 branches of government. But when they somehow start behaving as if they've become one branch, that all of them are under the executive, it is expected that the National Assembly, which is the legislative branch, must hold the executive branch to account. They must conduct all sorts of investigations, oversight functions to make sure that everything they are doing conforms with what they passed in law, especially budgets. Now, if they fail to do this job, that's democracy already failing. Are we going to talk about the 3rd branch of government, which is the judiciary? They are supposed to interpret all laws that the National Assembly passed. Not just the National Assembly, all laws that exist since the founding of Nigeria. They are supposed to interpret them to the letter. If they fail in all these their duties, that's democracy failing. So where is the average person supposed to run to? Where democracy or rule of law or justice have failed completely? Going by what is happening in Nigeria, especially the past few months, it seems that people don't really care. They are not rigid about the type of government the country operates, whether it's military rule or the so-called democracy. They just want good governance. They want to live the good life like their counterparts in other countries. This is because of what happened during the End Bad Governance protests. People openly called on the military to take over power. Yes. You could see the frustration. People didn't really care about the fact that these are military boys who have a tendency to be dictatorial, to lock up people and intimidate and harm people. They didn't just care. They were simply tired of all the sufferings coming from politicians, people that are civilians. people that should understand human feelings, not like military men who are only focused on the order. The last order, they will obey that one. So that frustration pushed people to call on the military to take over power. It means that they are not actually rigid about the type of government that the country runs. What they care about is simply good governance. Who wouldn't like the good life? After all, in Nigeria, the greater part of the last 40 years, the good life Nigerians have enjoyed have always come under the military regimes. Yes, throughout the 80s and the greater part of 90s, Nigeria was under military regimes. And the good life was there. There wasn't massive inflation. Life was easy, despite the fact that Nigerians suffered the military dictatorship. Now, compare that to democracy, which started in 1999 after the military left power. Under the Fourth Republic, Nigerians last enjoyed the good life more than a decade ago, most especially under Obasanjo's first and second terms. Under Obasanjo's administration, primary school teachers could buy a car. Yes, it's an imported used car, but at least they could be able to buy it just by saving their salaries for a few months. You can understand how Nigerians were living the good life at the time. Compare that to now. Even bankers will struggle to buy an imported used car, not to talk of brand new car they used to buy under Obasanjo's administration. So you can understand the economic decline. That's why the average person is disillusioned. They are asking the question, what's the benefit of the so-called democracy? Many people go to bed hungry. They're not sure where their next meal will come from. That's why they keep asking the question, what's the role of the government? Isn't the government supposed to make sure that people don't go to bed hungry? Isn't the government supposed to make sure at least the purchasing power is up there like it used to be under the military regimes and under Olusegun Obasanjo? More people today in Nigeria call for a dissolution of the country like never before. This is because they no longer believe in the so-called democracy. They no longer believe that the system is working, that the system is made to work for a few people, not for the masses. That's why there is growing resentment for the West in Africa, because Western leaders continue to support dictators just because they are under the so-called democracy. They would never, in the wildest dreams, sanction them, but they wouldn't blink an eye to sanction a military regime because they can't control military regimes. Any military regime you see in bed with the West, they are not under their sanctions. It means they are working together. But that's not the case in most African countries, especially in Western Africa, in the Sahel, where they have pulled away from ECOWAS. This leads many people to make the comparison. The hypocrisy is there for everyone to see. In the 90s, Nigeria was under heavy sanctions from the West, just because military dictator Sani Abacha was in charge. But the average Nigerian didn't feel the sanction because of what? The country was working, the economy was relatively stable, the exchange rate was stable, there was virtually no inflation, everything was working out. But compare that to today, like already said, it is completely the opposite. So many people are thinking this is the government that actually deserves sanctions because they have abused so many human rights. They have gone so far that even military men will shudder at what they've done, but not even a condemnation, dress down or sanctions are coming from the West. They are all mute because maybe the people are actually their puppets. They play by their rules. They do whatever they want them to do in their countries. So they wouldn't give a damn what is happening. All they care about is the control. They want someone there to be someone that they can control. Unlike military regimes that are very hard to control. The military boys don't care who you are. They just obey their last order. Especially military boys that came to power through a revolution. Not the types that Nigeria used to have. They were envious of the politicians. They took over power because they were not the ones stealing the money. They were envious of the fact that, hey, look at how these people are enjoying the money, stealing the treasury dry, siphoning and laundering money abroad. They took over and continued where the politicians stopped. So they never brought anything revolutionary to power. It was merely a continuation of affairs. Same thing the politicians were doing, they continued the same thing and even made it worse. This is the main reason why people are losing faith in the so-called democracy. And like Ibrahim Traore said, they are working on a democratic transition in Burkina Faso, but it will be based on African justice system that they can control, not what foreigners or other people can control. Thanks for watching.